Hey everyone, my name's Andy. I'm the head of product here at Sifl, and I'm going to talk you through our Pegasus demo today. As a quick background, we take your eligibility, claims, and operational data and unify it with over 15,000 proprietary data sets that Sifl has to make recommendations that match your organizational goals with the teams and resources that you have. Today, we're going to talk particularly about some population health and quality use cases here. So I'm going to go high level and then start going down deeper into member level information. So what you see here is our Data Explorer tab. We use a lot of the information that we just listed to give you a unified view so that you can easily answer questions such as where my population lives, how much do they cost in the last 12 months or a few months, and then you can start doing some pretty interesting things such as if we have CBOs or community-based organizations or other provider information, we can do overlays on top of it so that we can start getting a sense of where there might be gaps in the network adequacy. So perhaps there's a population in Winston-Salem, and then we don't really have good CBO access there. That's just an example. I'm not going to go through every single tile here, but just to paint some pictures, we have different filters on the left-hand side where you can go through and sort by people who are in high-risk categories. This is calculated based off of total cost of care in the last 12 months. So you can see how many members are here, the percentage, how much they cost. You can then go over there and see what the cost breakdown is over time. Perhaps you're seeing a big increase in ED visits or something else that might be addressed. And then now you can start looking at different demographic breakdowns as well as maybe top physical conditions that you may or may not be aware of, but now can be powered with data to make informed decision making. If you're doing a quality example, we could pull in from our library of tiles, such as the quality tile. So you now, let's say you're focused on these few measures, you can see where you are currently, where your target, your gap, and then you could visualize in different ways too. So this is the table view, but then you can also now go into a line graph view, see how you've been performing over time. You can drop down the selections to different measures. You see which measures you've been performing well and which ones you haven't in a certain time period. So now let's say that we found a group of interest, like we looked at the high risk members here. We can see that one of the top physical conditions is diabetes. So let's figure out who in this group of diabetes members can be most impactable. So over here, we're going to go through our segments functionality here. We're going to type in diabetes. And what this segment functionality does is it's a report out from the Sifl machine learning model. And what we do is we show you who are the most impactable members here as defined by members who are likely to do an intervention or members who, if they have the intervention, have a high likelihood to have a better outcome, whether that's a cost or a clinical outcome. So we can see here, this is one of the outputs, the high-risk diabetes members, is about 3,000 members. And let's do a double click here. So in our profile-based view, you're going to see the scatter plot, which shows you where the opportunities are in terms of cost avoidance, the likelihood to avoid cost, versus how much these members cost currently. There's two primary ways of looking at it from the machine learning model right now. It's location-based. So as you can see here, it's county plus an intervention down below. The reason we do location-based is sometimes your teams may just be organized based on a geographic location, and that's how we want to cluster members to be more targeted based on operational feedback. The other way of looking at it is profile-based views. So instead of a location-based, we're grouping members based on certain attributes. So for example, these would be high-risk diabetes members with complex conditions that could live across the different regions. And then this is the intervention here. Now, the interventions come with Sifl's standard library of interventions, but we can also customize these interventions based off of your team's needs. So let's look at this 450 members because they have the highest cost avoidance potential, and let's go see what the ROI could be. So what this is simulating is if we were to do this intervention in a certain time period, the blue line represents the cost historically. The black is the line if you were to remain status quo and did not do an intervention. And then the dotted purple line indicates if you were to do the intervention that Sifl recommended, where your future outcome cost could be. And then the area between the curve is this cost avoidance number here. I'm not going to go into super details here, but then there's some other just metadata associated to every single profile that we see in the segments. And this allows you and your team to dynamically explore outputs from our machine learning model to determine which campaigns is going to be best for you to target which segments. So now let's say it's time to kick off the segments. We want to actually initiate a campaign here. What we can do is go over the campaign page and then set you guys up with a campaign. So let's go through a quality campaign, for example. So we looked at the diabetes members and maybe there's a specific kind of measure that we're trying to target here. And so we have two core views, an operational view and executive view. We'll go through operational view first. The operational view, these are some sample tiles. We could see the whole journey between the call attempts, assuming that this is a call outreach, and then the pickup, appointment schedule, and then ultimately quality measure documented. The purpose of this is you can see where the core drop-off points are so that you can refine this funnel and improve your throughput. You can also see member analysis as well as team performance. So perhaps you want to evaluate, hey, what are our call attempts on average? Where do we need to improve the most in terms of our rates and pickup rates and so forth? There's also conversion timelines. So for example, how long it takes from one point to another, because perhaps that could be one of the major issues is that it's taking too long for one particular stage and the members are starting to drop off there. And then the other popular tiles are declined reasons tile. This shows you if you select perhaps a specific transition, like we know that there's a big drop off between the pickup to no appointment, we can start seeing why. So this is the category scheduling conflict. If you click into it, you can see the reasons behind that conflict. So the number one reason here is a work scheduling conflict versus childcare responsibility. And now you're equipped with data to make better informed decision making on how to improve your funnel. This is a sample executive view where these could be the 5 different measures that you're targeting for the diabetes members, for example. And then you could track these over time to say, okay, like where are we based off of the targets that we want to hit? And are we hitting them? How far are we hitting them? And which ones are we behind and needs more improvement? Lastly, we're going to a members view. So once you're kicking off a campaign, perhaps you were having questions around, okay, I'm calling a certain member. How many care gaps do they have open? How many campaigns are they on and other metadata? So over here in a member directory, you can see the gaps that we have on individual members as well as how many campaigns they are on. So therefore, you don't have collision of calling a member too many times into different campaigns. And then we can look up, for example, Harry. We can click into Harry. And if we're calling Harry, now we have a quick lookup in terms of metadata information about Harry. When was he last seen? How many active campaigns? His likelihood to pick up the phone and so forth. We also provide other pieces of information such as utilization. When was the last time they went to the ED, inpatient, so forth, as well as notes. So you could take active notes here. You can import notes from other systems. So you can get a holistic timeline view of all the conversations that Harry has had. You can say like, talk to Harry about blank. So that concludes the presentation of the Pegasus demo. If you guys have any questions, do please reach out to us and we'll be populating this with many more features. So stay tuned.